One of the things that people have asked me from time to time is like, what was your best game? Yeah? And what was your most important game? And what game decided the most money you ever made? And when you won the US championship title, what game was important? You know, these types of questions. But sometimes, very interestingly, people ask, what was your most nerve-wracking game? That's kind of a different answer, right? I mean, what was a game that you were most nervous about? And, you know, we always have those last round nervousness and, you know, everything's on the line, the championship and blah, blah, blah. But by far, and not even close, my most nerve-wracking game came in the 1984 US Championship. And my opponent was a man by the name of Kamran Shirazi. And Kamran, born in Iran, he had come to the United States, and he was an extraordinarily gifted chess player. He was enormously talented and could play a plethora of positions really, really, really well and hang his queen. Like, you know, shocking blunders and just fabulous, fabulous games. And this was obviously the US Championship. It was a crucial event for this, that, the other thing, pride, prizes, everything at stake. And I was really stunned that when I had come early for the event was held in Berkeley, California, just of course across the bay from San Francisco, in a place we call Berkeley, California, of course. Berkeley, California. And we played at the University of Cal Berkeley campus. And all the players stayed at a hotel that was near, just off campus nearby, very easy walk. And I came in, and there was Kamran Shirazi playing blitz chess, 5-minute blitz chess, with Roman Djindji-Hashvili. And they were just going for hours and hours, and I'm saying, you know, like, guys, the tournament's going to be starting and things like this. And throughout the whole event, there was just like nonstop blitz between the two of them. It was like there was two parallel tournaments going on. Their blitz sessions and the US Championship. I wondered if they ever got any sleep. They were always in the lobby of the hotel playing blitz. So I asked Roman, I said, Roman, you know, what's the stakes? He said, we're playing $10 a game. $10 a game. And I said, wow, this is really cool. And I said, what's the score? And he said something like, I'm plus 60, which means, you know, after 100 hours of play, 200 hours of play, whatever it was, he was up 60 games or $600. I said, well, you guys aren't just paying each other after play. No. He said, Kamran's going to pay me out of his prize money that he wins here in the US Championship. And I thought that was kind of cool, you know, like, you know, this is America, the land of credit. You know, you didn't have to pay right away. I'll pay you on the come, you know. And it was really an interesting, situation because there are 16 players, but there are 10 prizes, 10. For those players who were not in the top 10, they were awarded money of $100 a point. Okay, so, obviously if you made in the top 10, you made better prizes than $100 a point. So they're just playing day after day, night after night, their blitz games. I'm just kind of watching in from time to time. And Kamran is having the worst tournament of his life. He loses a game. He loses a game. He loses a game. Now keep in mind, when you're playing in the US Championship, and you're playing the strongest grandmasters in the nation, they're looking for their points. They're like sharks, right? Who's ever bleeding in the water, they're going after him. And Kamran is the blood in the water. And everybody's going after Kamran for a point. Well, this goes on. 5 rounds, 6 rounds. The guy's losing game after game. 8 rounds, 9 rounds, 10 rounds. So all of my colleagues, my nearest rivals, have gotten a victory over Kamran, and soon it's going to be my turn, right? And now it's like the most nerve-wracking game. Like, this streak has got to stop. I mean, Kamran's such a very, very strong chess player. He deserves to be in the U.S. Championship. He's having a mathematically impossible event. He's going to beat somebody, and it just better not be me. I mean, you know. So before the game, I was a bundle of nerves, everything I've been telling and so forth and so on. And spoiler alert, before I get into the game, I just have to share that Kamran, in fact, did not, yay, lose all of his games. Yay. He made a draw, one draw in the whole tournament against all the competitors. That draw, of course, was with Roman Djindjiashvili. So Roman could get $50 for all the blitz points he was ahead. So you know, you had those games where it's a hilarious story. You have those games where you're the big favorite. You're King Kong, and there's a lesser gorilla in your midst, and you're supposed to beat that guy. But you know, that's when things can go wrong, right? And here goes this game. So I'm white, and I open d4. Now the sad thing about Kamran, it was completely, and I mean utterly ridiculously impossible to prepare for him. He could play anything. I mean literally anything. And he would often do it at the spur of the moment. So if you looked at his databases of games and if you saw his chess history, it'd do you no good. So I had a nice walk before the game and tried to calm down. I played d4, tried to imagine what he would play, and of course, I was nowhere close. c5, not completely unexpected. d5, d6. Now this is strange because this is a kind of an open invitation to me. If I play the move c2, c4, we're kind of in a queen's pawn opening, standard thing. And if I play the move e2, e4, it's a kind of a reversal. Now I'm playing an e4 opening, okay? Let's just keep it calm, keep it quiet, c4. And now I'm thinking, okay, in my mind, he could play a king's fianchetto, like a king's Indian defense, maybe a Benoni, or he might switch. He might play a straight Benoni. g6, e4. Now this is an important point. Those of you do you know about the Djindji Indian? The Djindji Indian. Okay, well there's Roman Djindjiashvili. You know the Djindji Indian, Julian? You've heard about it? Exactly. Okay, so that fellow, Roman Djindjiashvili, pioneered this line where the knight, actually the actual move order of the Djindji Indian is in this position to play g6. Oops, go ahead. c4. So we kind of get what happened in my game with Kamran. And in this position, Roman Djindjiashvili took, which when he introduced this whole concept was really revolutionary. I mean, if you stop and think about it, Black is playing g6, bishop g7, getting a beautiful bishop on the long diagonal, investing 2 tempi in developing his bishop, and then he just gives it up for free. He just gives it away. And the idea of Romans, which was, I thought, really, really clever, is to follow it up with this really out-of-the-world type of move, f7, f5. Like, what does that move have to do with anything? But Roman's concept was extremely admirable. His idea is to take control over the e4 square. Very simply, Black's intention is to play knight f6, knight e4, queen a5. So Roman, being a close friend of mine, we did a lot of analysis together. So I was familiar with his idea. And so in this position, after the move g6, I did not play knight c3, bishop g7, e4, because I was fearful that in their blitz session together, Kamran had learned something and was ready to play bishop c3, bc3, f5 against me. Rather, I delayed the development of my knight. And instead, because Black's knight is not already on f6, it means I can play e4 unimpeded, which is what I did. e4, bishop g7, bishop d3. It's a kind of a small violation. Like I say, you know, you develop your bishops before you develop knights. Knights are the natural move. But in this case, as explained, I did it for a very specific purpose, which is I wanted to avoid Kamran's preparation. Now again, I don't know where Kamran's coming from. All I know is all of my nearest rivals have defeated him. And literally, I gotta win. I can't afford, you know, to draw or lose. I mean, I'll lose serious ground against the leaders. You know, here, my last 2 moves had been aimed at preventing f5. You know, right out of the wing comes a kind of Benko Gambit reaction. Now, from a funny point of view, if you think about it, if I had played knight c3, I suspect Kamran intended to take the knight. So now, on his side of the table, he wants to punish me for not having developed my knight, and the only way he can do that is to play a Benko Gambit kind of move. b5 takes a6. Okay, well, you're not going to find this in any of your Benko Gambit books, because normally, you know, White's knight is here or here, and the bishop is still on f1. But this is a crafty idea in the Benko Gambit, because if I allow Black to take and I recapture, it's like it took me 2 moves to make the capture instead of 1, right? So I kind of lose a tempo over the normal Benko Gambit variations. Okay. Knight c3 takes, check, here. I'm an old pawn grubber, man. Give me your pawns. Okay. So now we're in a kind of a Benko Gambit. And what Kamran didn't realize was that I really, really respect the Benko Gambit. In fact, I think it's an excellent defense for literally 99.999% of people. I mean, only if you're playing only against Magnus Carlsen and other world champions, would you be a little bit cautious in terms of giving up the pawn. But in terms of grandmaster play, master play, international play, club play, it's a very easy, good defense to play. For a mere pawn, you're getting really great activities. The 2 open files, the A and B file for Black's rooks, are natural. In this case, the only thing that's a little bit strange is the bishop position on d7. Normally the bishop would go to a6 and the knight goes to d7. Okay, so a plug for the Benko Gambit. And boy, did I ever sense that was coming, right? I mean, I'm telling you, hundreds and hundreds of hours of blitz play, and the Gingy Indian had made its mark felt on Kamran's psyche, and he's channeling bishop takes c3. This is a terrible move. Come on. I mean, it's one thing when I have double pawns on c4 and c3. It's another thing when I'm already a pawn up and you're giving up this very, very beautiful dark squared bishop. My anxiety levels, whatever they were, let's call them 98, 99 out of 100, after this move have gone down like 40. Sort of like, I mean, I wanted to tiptoe around the board, give my opponent a kiss on the cheek, and tiptoe back and sit down, but didn't do it. Okay, thank you very much. He gives up his very, very strong bishop for knight that was non-threatening. Knight f6, bishop d3. Now this move looks a little strange, so I might engage for a moment with my audience here and ask, well, why did I just play bishop d3? Why did I play bishop d3? Couldn't I have played another move? Julian, yes, please. Yeah, well, at the moment, of course, I'm fearful that if I don't do anything, Kamran will realize that my pawn on e4 is hanging and simply take it, right? So the question is, how should I defend it? I could defend it with move f2, f3, but then the knight on g1 would be baying and saying, what are you doing? I hate your guts. You take away the square. But why did I not therefore play the move queen c2? Queen c2. So, okay, so queen c2.
I mean, at some point, because then you're probably going to develop your knight to f3.
Right.
And that'll give them the option of playing bishop d4.
Yes, yes, exactly. That's exactly right. One of the things that I was thinking, and again, considering my high anxiety levels as to this game, I was really thinking, very carefully about every single option that Kamran could play, like every single one. And the one thing was like, if I played the move queen c2, so in my mind, every move he plays could be potentially absurd, right? Like, I mean, we're playing a wild man here, I mean, anything can happen. I mean, we've seen so many wild things already. So in this position, as ridiculous as it is, what is an absurd move that you never see in chess openings? Yes, young man.
Rook a4?
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you ever seen black make a rook lift on the queen side that goes after your e-pawn? Not that I can't defend it. I can, of course. I mean, I must. But it's just sort of like, okay, what possibly could he attack? Now, again, I'm not so happy about playing the move f2, f3, because my knight's going to get very upset with me, right? So I would probably have to play a move like c4, right? Okay. Now after c4, in my mind's eye, I imagined that the knight was going to come to a6. The knight was going to come to b4. The queen was going to go to a5. I don't know what's going on. I just timed out the variation, right? Like, that's it. Too much originality, like, okay. So knight, bishop to d3, okay. And for what Julian said is correct, I didn't want to really give him the opportunity to pin my knight with knight f3, allowing bishop g4. I wanted to play knight e2. And again, Kamran was one of those guys, he's really hard to hold down. You know, you want to straight jacket him, but it's very, very difficult. But here, again, because my levels of anxiety were going really, really down, Black has given up his dark squared bishop. I mean, come on. No can do, right? You can't do that. You can't just give up a wonderful bishop. So I've got it in my mind that one day I'm going to be able to play bishop c1 to h6, and this move is going to land like a ton of bricks. Yeah, baby, that's my move, you know? And it's just, I just got to make it happen. Just got to make it happen. Okay, queen a5. Again, you know, this is Kamran trying desperately to mix it up. But the more you think about it, you know, like, the guy still, he is creating counter chances. You can imagine that when I defend this pawn, that Black may play a move like queen a4, which attacks the pawn on e4. And again, I don't really get my positional grippers on him quite yet. Queen a5, knight e2, bishop a4. Out of the blue. like, oh no, you know, like, where did that come from? And it's a kind of a funny thing, once again. It's sort of like, here, I don't think I've done anything wrong myself, right? But I had this very strange feeling during the game that somehow I've been put in a position where I have one only move, right? I mean, like, wow, how weird is that? And when you have that feeling that you only have one good move, it's sort of like you start to feel like you've done something wrong. My queen is attacked. If I block the attack against my queen with the move bishop d3 to c2, knight takes e4. Just grabs the pawn. Instead, I have to put my queen on, I just kind of want to say, a little slightly awkward square, queen d1 to d2, knight d7. And you know, I had this funniest feeling that my opponent is playing in a way that he doesn't understand chess. He's got it all completely backwards. Whoever his teacher is, you know, get a refund. Bad lesson, bad lesson. But at the same time, I have this, again, this strange, awkward feeling like this game that I absolutely, absolutely have to win. Gosh, give him a moment and he's ready to go knight e5, knight takes d3, queen takes d3, bishop b5, and suddenly he's dominating. Anxiety level goes much higher, much higher, much higher. I've got to do something very clever. Suggestions from the class. What should I do? Young man. F4? F4? Julian? Also F4, 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 to stop that knight. Okay, let's just pause for a second there. How many of us like F4? That's 2, 3. Let's just imagine, for those who do like F4, let's imagine we play the move F4, and then Black would play the move C5, C4, and then what do? We don't like to take the pawn because of knight e4, yes? So f4, c4, bishop b1, knight c5, attacking our pawn on e4. And in some times, let me just show that. Sorry, I should just show that. I apologize. f4, let's just say, just for argument's sake, we just put a variation down. Now, besides the fact that this pawn on e4 is attacked, let's just imagine, just for argument's sake, that we play a move like knight g3 to defend our pawn. Now, after a move, for example, like bishop b5, we're not crushing the guy. On the contrary, Black has ideas like knight b3, taking advantage of the a file, as well as ideas of knight d3. And it's like, whoa, 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 don't tell me I'm worse. I'm a pawn up, right? Okay, so f4 is a move, good move. Other suggestions for white? Julian again. Knight g3 makes perfect sense. One of the greatest players, the greatest tactical players I've ever played against, I've ever met, I've ever seen, is Garry Kasparov. But one of the most extraordinary things about Garry Kasparov is he's really underestimated as a strategic player. One of the things that you really, when you look at the games of Garry Kasparov, look what he does to his opponent's knights. Now this knight is on g3 already. Wonderful, excellent, excellent, no problem. So if this pawn was not on g6, a Garry Kasparov move would be play g6 to strategically lock in the knight and limit this knight's possibilities. Garry was really amazingly good about reducing his opponent's options, especially where the knights are concerned. So when we play the move knight g3, we do it for a very, very concrete reason. We're doing it to protect the pawn on e4. But when we do make that move, we do have to recognize we put our knight on g3 on a square that has no future, right? That the pawn on g6 really, now the only way this knight will ever work is if we play a move like f4, e5 one day, and the knight goes to e4. So this is a kind of a temporary move. The other thing I want to say about the move knight g3 is when we play the move knight g3, we have to be cognizant that our opponent may not like our knight on g3. He may play the move h5. After we play the move knight g3, h5, we're almost obliged to play the move h4 because we don't want black playing h4 and h3. So let me just put that on the board for a second. c4, yes, of course, we can do everything that we like. h4. Now, if at any moment you like, you can trade queens, Julian, no problem. Anytime you like, you can trade queens. But for the moment, you got to worry about your knight, yeah? So let's just say, for argument's sake, that you move your knight here, and after h3, g3, knight e4. I'm getting killed. I mean, it's like the whole world. It's like the world just caved in on me, right? You know, anxiety levels went down from a level of 40 all the way ricocheting right past 90, going up to 98%. Obviously, after this move, not only is the bishop hanging with a check, thanks to the absolute pin, but thud, knight f3 check is also on black's agenda. So it's like one of those things. I'm really, really nervous, and I'm also asking myself, where did I go wrong? Sorry. To play c4 immediately, in the words of old Kamran. Immediately, c4. Okay, so cancel that. Get out of here. Okay, so c4. Okay, so let's see how this move helps us. Obviously, the pawn on c4 nicely reinforces the pawn on d5. It prepares the knight to a pretty good square on c3. But my immediate concern, I think, would be knight e5. Let me just double check for a second. Suppose I do something helpful for you. I help your development, and I take the queen. Have to take with the king. And now knight e5.
I was thinking bishop b2 maybe?
Bishop, Bishop boy 2. Okay, if I can get away with bishop boy 2, I like that move very much.
I think we missed something there.
I did? Sorry,
Yeah,
let's go back.
I think I made a mistake too. I think here knight e5 because you're starting to take on d3.
Sorry, oops, here. I gave up. I gave up what I did. Ah, rah, 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 rah. Okay, good. Close your eyes. That was a wardrobe malfunction, everybody. I think you hit the nail right on the head yourself. They'll allow anybody into this club, I tell you. I mean, Rex Singfield, come here to disturb the class. Joyous, take him out. Yes, I think you hit the correct answer there. Was that knight e5 comes, and you're, thanks to the spin, isn't it? I mean, how did I get into trouble?
No, if you take the queen, then knight d3.
Okay, sorry, pause. Okay, so queen, I mean, hanging pieces with check, right? This can, I mean, scare the most intrepid, but hold on. Okay, let's see. Let's say, first of all, let's just look at the obvious recapture. Then what will we do? Yay. And by the way, I love playing moves like king d2. And one of the things that's a little bit off-putting about this position is some time ago you heard me mention that my move bishop c1 to h6 was going to land like, you know, Godzilla in the position. Godzilla is not in the position anymore. Let's try the move knight g4 with the very obvious intention of taking the pawn, attacking the rook, attacking the bishop. What? Did I hear that right? I'm shocked to discover that Julian is hanging a piece. Well, the best I could see is something like a move like rook h1, which maybe just simply offers a pawn. Black could win his pawn back, which of course I didn't want to give his pawn back. But it was remarkable being in my shoes in this position, trying to figure out my opponent's guess. Never mind figure out. Figuring out was no. It was a guesswork. Both to guess my opponent's move and to try to understand where I went wrong, or did I go wrong, or what was going on. Well, in a number of the variations that we've just discussed, one of the things that is happening is white's king is vulnerable. And, you know, time and time again, I will repeat myself that in the opening, your goal is only three things and only three things. You want your fair share of the center, you want good development, you want a safe king. That's it, right? I'm going for the safe king. I castled. Okay. Whatever else comes, who knows what Kamran's going to do? You know, like whatever else comes, you know, at least I've got a safe king. Okay, that made me feel good. He played knight e8. I mean, after all, what else is he supposed to do? If he messes up, moves like knight g3, they're still in the position. Moves like c4, moves like f4 are all in the position. And in a crazy way, maybe one day the queen could travel all the way to h6. It's going to take some time, a little preparation, but okay. There you have it. Knight e5, f4. When I was a kid, I was raised, that sounds a little bit too strong, but it made a very powerful impression on my life. Who has read the 2-volume series of Alexander Alekhein's Best Games? Right. Only one person in the whole room has chess culture? And you're Russian, Verge. I mean, a small fee, right? It's a rental charge. Yeah, the capitalist system. Come on, be serious. Well, in that work, which I think was really a wonderful work by Alexander Alekhine, is he had a game where his opponent has set a trap. Yeah? And Alekhine says, here my opponent played this move, which sets this beautiful trap. And Alekhine started thinking about the position. How do I avoid the trap? How do I avoid the trap? And every possibility that he saw of avoiding the trap had downside. So then he started looking at what would happen if he fell into the trap, and he discovered that his victory would come sooner than before. So falling into the trap was a really, really good idea. So one of the things we might consider for a moment this position is that black is material down. Absolutely, he's pawn down. And black has down the two bishops, clearly. And black is looking for compensation, absolutely. So we might imagine that black would like compensation by going knight here, taking off this bishop, and playing for counterplay on the light squares. And while I allowed this line of play, what went into my mind was this idea that falling into Kamran's trap was the best way of improving my game, right? So in other words, I say to black says, you be careful, I'll take your light squared bishop. I go, okay, please, my guest, be my guest, take my light squared bishop. So what I now realized is that instead of being fearful that my opponent would take the bishop I would actually embrace that position, because after knight takes d3, new variation, queen takes d3, what would white play on his next two moves? If white could have two moves in a row, what on earth would white play? e5 is one of them, Julian. c4, followed by e5. And it's just, hey, wait a minute, this is total domination, right? So by getting rid of this knight, which was making it difficult for me to play f4 and e5, and also black's play on the light squares is actually, it's an illusion. There is no play on the light squares. Bishop a4 to b5 is met by c4. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
What about c4 in that position? I mean, doesn't black get a little bit if he just plays c4?
You're channeling Kamran.
Oh, sweet.
So, f4, c4. So this is Kamran trying to mix things up. He did not like this move, pardon me, knight takes d3, queen takes d3, c4. He didn't like this resulting position, queen d4. Maybe he could have gone for it. I'm not sure. So let's imagine what could...
So my idea was just to play queen c5.
Okay, so queen c5, very, very, very reasonable move. What Verge, Alex, is trying to do is get me in a situation where it's a little bit awkward to defend these pawns, and if black is very lucky, he'll plant his bishop on d3. Yeah? So here, being an obstinate kind of person, I would probably play this move, hoping to induce queen trades and trying to get my bishop on this line and playing for the capture of this pawn on f6. My overall impression is that black is struggling. Okay, there's some compensation, yes, but at this moment he's probably trying to get to rope in a draw. Instead, Kamran, c4. You know what? Okay, gotta guess what's going on. And now, to the class. What would you play as white? Julian? Bishop boy 1? Yes, okay. Now you suggested that move rather instantly, and that is not exactly what you should do. Whenever you're in a position that is, quote, sharp, where pieces are attacking other pieces and things like this, the first and foremost thing that you look for is a check. You must absolutely look at moves that make check. Well, there is none. Okay, check off that one. Okay, no checks. Second of all, you must look at captures. So you're forced. This is the rules of chess. So you're forced to look at captures. If you look at the moves of capture, and go down the line and you're not satisfied, then the move what you suggested, bishop b1, would be third in line.